I'm Rabbi Sarah Berman. I'm the Director of Jewish Culture and Programming here at Central Synagogue. And this is our first Lunch and Learn of our programming year. This year we're going to be looking at diversity. We're going to be looking at all the different ways one can be Jewish through cultural and ethnic background, through religious practice, through belief and politics and food. And we hope that you will continue to join us throughout this year. Our speaker today, we are so honored to have with us. Rabbi Mira Rivera is the first Filipina-American woman to receive ordination and a master's in Jewish studies at the Jewish Theological Seminary. She currently serves as rabbi in residence and chaplain at the JCC Harlem and the Lunar Collective, the first organization by and for Asian American Jews. Rabbi Rivera has received the Rabbinic Human Rights Hero Award from Truah and was named a path-breaking rabbi by New York Jewish Week. She was granted a Rabbinical Excellence Award by Harlem District 9 for her interfaith work, and these are just a few of her many accolades. Rabbi Rivera came to New York first to dance, specifically with the Martha Graham Dance Company, while she earned a BFA in film with honors at the NYU Tisch School of the Arts. Rabbi Rivera is married to music director Jerome Corman and is the mother of two children, Ariel and Ben Corman from our very own staff. So, he's in the back of the room and just gave a thumbs up. Thanks for coming today, Ben. Rabbi Rivera, we're so glad to have you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Rabbi Sarah. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. So good to see you all this energy and flushed we are now with winter, nipping there, out there, and what better time to come while our son is working at Central Synagogue. I think he's entering, you're in your second year, almost in your second year. And yes, so we raised, my spouse and I raised our children on the Upper West Side, and the kids went to public school and then went on to college, and now we are a family where, for now, I think all of us are involved in the Jewish world. My spouse as my music director, which is a special way to be in Harlem, being part of the life of Harlem, and our son working here, and our daughter who is in rabbinical school at JTS. But we are New Yorkers, right? We are New Yorkers, and the sense of being New Yorkers is steeped in us. We would say, sometimes I'm not so sure, but for a long time we were stoic Knicks fans. However, there you go, right there you go. And so identity, and belonging is so much about New York, from accents to foods to neighborhoods. But what we're going to look at today are ways that in our Jewish world we cultivate peoplehood, the way we look at who we are as people. So oftentimes there were times when Am Yisrael Chai was, definitely part of like Simchat Torah, and people would just say it and shout it. And somehow we've come to this point in our lives, like, who would ever have thought that we would be in this place where we are, where the Jewish world is in so many cities, where to say the words Am Yisrael Chai brands you as something. But what I would like to do today is, that is one of the names of the people, the way we identify ourselves with that cheer that is in banners when you go to Israel now, when you come out of the plane and you go down that ramp, you see the photographs of all of the hostages, and written everywhere is Am Yisrael Chai. You see it on flagpoles, you see it as banners, hanging out of people's balconies. But then we realize that the word Am Yisrael has not always been there. So with this gathering today, I prepared a source sheet of some of the places where we start to understand who we are as people. So first, right off here, right? So we have who are our people, who is Am Yisrael. The first source that I bring on page 1 is a verse from our Tanach, from the book of Genesis. And here we find ourselves looking at Yaakov. So we are not looked upon, we don't call ourselves the people of Abraham. We just don't. We would probably say, or we could probably say we are the people of Adam, right? The first human, or the people of Chava, the first woman. But we say that we are the people of Jacob. And when you look at this first verse here, somebody just raise your hand and I'll come to you. And if you don't mind reading, I hope the letters are big enough, either in Hebrew or in English, your choice. So I'm inviting you to read out loud. Anyone? Yes.
Then his brother emerged, holding on to the heel of Esau. So they named him Yaakov, heel. Yitzchak was 60 years old when they were born.
Okay, so thank you. Tell me your name.
Mimi?
Thank you, Mimi. So we were named after a patriarch whose the root of his name being the heel, being actually like the second of twins. And he would be, why be named after that, right? So let's just imagine and think of, we are the people of the patriarch who is second, who is the heel. In the same way, we say, for example, like Aleph. So we have Aleph Bet as as the beginning of our alphabet. Aleph, we don't see our Torah readings beginning with Aleph. It always begins with Bet, with Bereshit, with the second one. So he is also the second big verse here. He is also a type of person who would leave where he came from, and he would set out to make a reckoning with a brother that he and his mother somehow with a course of life, things were not straight, and he is a person who would set out to set things right. So I would say that he is a person in this bolded letters there on page 1 of verse 11 in the second box. He is a person who would arrive at a certain place and who would stop there for the night. And meaning that he is a person who would set out from the comfort of his home, of what is familiar, and he would set out to make a reckoning with a brother that had felt wronged for many, many years, right? So we say that he is that type of a person, and he is the type of a person who, with this kind of like trusting in the winds and trusting in what lies ahead without any marker in front. His marker would be the sun that sets. His marker from this verse would be the stones that he puts his head on, and the stones that Yaakov would encircle himself around. They say about 12 of those stones. I'm remembering the parasha of Benjamin, Parashat Vayetzeh, where he chanted about this, where Yaakov is that kind of a person who would put himself in the elements because he has a task to do. And he is a type of a person who at some point will have a dream. And we will come back to this idea of this dream again, of many steps, a dream of a ladder ascending. And later on we will see, and I will just make mention right now, that as we go forward into what lies ahead for the Jewish people, in this United States of America, in this world, as being on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean to our sisters and brothers and siblings in Israel, we will be a people that will be on a ladder. We will be a people that, as one of my teachers from in Israel would say, Tamar Elad Applebaum, we are a people that will be songs of ascent. We will be a people coming from not knowing where, as Yaakov was there sleeping in the night in the elements, to having a dream and having the capacity to think of ascending, right? So imagine the dream of Yaakov, where he sees that ladder, and you and I, this will be part of our call to just persist and keep ascending. All right, so we're still chasing after all the different ways that our people are called, right? People of Jacob is one, right? If you go to the next page, to the back of the first page, we see now at the top here that we are also a people who are always mindful and always connected to the idea that we are a people that will have descendants. We are not content with being just who we are. We are a people that want to continue, and we are a people that will be, as this promise was, as the dust of the earth. We are a people that will be spreading north, south, east, and west, and we are a people by whom all the families of the earth shall bless themselves by our being on earth and by our descendants. That's pretty big. That's, from the heel. Remember now, Yaakov as the heel, people of Yaakov, from the very bottom, from like ascending from lemata, like going from way down there, or an abyss, you might say, and that suddenly now we are dreaming of, and we are taking the promise that given by God, that our descendants will be as the dust of the earth, so spread out all over north, south, east, and west, and that we will be a blessing to the world. Pretty chutzpah there, right? A little bit like, all right. But as they say, fake it until you make it, right? If you say, stand, for your warrior pose or whatever you have to, you're going to stand and make yourself believe that you will stand. Okay, so that's another way that we can think about ourselves. The bottom of page 2, that next verse, again thinking of who are we? What is your name? It is asked. And he said, in the time that the dawn is breaking, my name is Yaakov. And he will be told, your name shall no longer be Yaakov, but Yisrael. So who are we? Who are these people? We are now a people that's going to be called Yisrael. By the example of one who fought in the night, that one who struggled and one who prevailed, to one. Still no right? This is still not Yisrael. It's just one human being, like one person, Jacob, who struggled in the night and prevailed and said he was visited by an angel, and he struggled with that. Could it have been an ish, a human being, one man, one person? Could it have been his brother whom he wrestled with in the night? But still one, all right? We're still not close to people. All right, we keep going. Now we go to page 3. The top of page 3, suddenly we are going to be described in the book of Exodus in loftier terms. Perhaps it's a call to how we could be. And this is the encounter with Moses being up in the mountain, and it is said then that thus shall you say to the house of Yaakov and declare to the children of Israel, you have seen what I did to the Egyptians, how I bore you eagle's wings and brought you to me. Now, if you will obey me and faithfully and keep my covenant, you shall be three things here. You shall be three like aspirations. One, a treasured possession among all the peoples. From being Yaakov heel, from being one who wrestled with an angel, with, is it a conscience, a real human being, or his destiny? Now it is, wow, my treasured possession among all the peoples. So in Hebrew it says, I transliterated it on the left side. And on the right side, also bolded the letters, Li segula mikol ha'amim. To me, you will be a people that is treasured. There are those that say that this is this is when we are called that Jews going out there claiming that they are the treasured peoples. But here it is. This is part of what we visit year after year after year, seared into Jewish memory, seared into Jewish lips, through the Torah readings, sealed into our biblical, rabbinic, and community imagination that we are a treasured peoples. Segula, if we take out all the nikudot, all the punctuations, the vocalizations, one of my colleagues, Rabbi Amichai Lau-Levi of Lab Shul, if any of you are familiar with that, he has a documentary out now. A documentary was made of 21 years of his life, and it's called The Sabbath Queen. He reads Am Segula as the purple people. The purple people, why? Because anyone chant Torah here? Who chants Torah? Susan, right? So Susan chants Torah. So that mark on the cantillation mark with the 3 dots on the top, what is that? What's that called?
Segul, right? Yes, segul.
Segul, exactly, right? That cantillation, one of the special melodies in Torah is you would see like 3 dots on top of the Hebrew words. And they say that's like a cluster of grapes. So my colleague, Rabbi Amichai Lau-Levi, who has championed the rights and community for LGBTQ community, says, oh, that also means purple people. Purple is a great color. Purple is the color of royalty. Purple is the color of sustenance and and the sustenance of Borei Pri Hagafen, the promise of our Kiddush. So even just not being flippant about that, but that we are in the book of Exodus, in that which we bend our mind and our hearts year after year, we are that. So it's not just us going around the world boasting. Verse 6 says, another way that we can be looked at is as a kingdom of priests. Big one. A sovereignty, not only with one sovereign, but a sovereignty, a dominion, a land where there are priests. Kohanim, Kohenet, that each human being is called to that level of holiness. Pretty big, again. Again, it's a far cry from being Yaakov, the people of the heel, nor even Yisrael, one person who fought and survived. And then finally, in this verse, we're called as a holy nation, Goy Kadosh. In one reading, 3 of these ways that we are looked upon, we are asked to consider ourselves. It's pretty high. That's a high mark. That's a pretty high ask. The next verse we have here brings us down, softens our knees, kind of gives us to a place of a little bit more vulnerability and one of the things I've been able to do for myself, just to keep it going, you know how it goes, the body, with all of its travails and challenges, is I go to a chiropractic treatment. I try to do that because I used to dance and I don't dance anymore. And I've found that as we get, as we get finer and we mellow with age, somehow the bones shift, right? Our alignment shifts around, and suddenly there's a pain here, there's a pain there, and flexibility starts to go. And here we are called a stiff-necked people. A stiff-necked people. But just knowing how our bodies work, learning to work with our bodies. When our necks get stiff, what is the root cause of that? Tension, stress, right? And oftentimes we cure it from up here. But oftentimes the cure really is like from down. From down below, sometimes it's like wearing the right shoes, no longer the fancy shoes, but shoes with really good support so that your feet are planted, and that resets the whole spine, and that affects the way your neck moves or does not move. So we are from the lofty, treasured peoples, Am Segula, Mamlechet Kohanim, a dominion of priests and priestesses, and then that lofty call of a Goy Kadosh, a holy nation. The Tanach, our scriptures, show us that we are also capable of being a stiff-necked people. Right, a stiff-necked people. So by that I read the entire system is rigid. Not being flippant about that, but this idea, this charge of us as being Am Kesheho Oref runs wild through the book of Exodus. We continue. We are now on page 4. I'm going to run through these, and then we will bring us to our world today. Okay. Another way we are looked at, and this is in the book of Psalms, is what they say, Am To'ei Levav. Now we are being looked upon as people, but sometimes a people that don't make sense, a senseless people. And I'm going to make I'll give forgiveness to King David, who is to whom the Psalms are attributed, that this, very judgmental term that he brings to us, that we are a senseless people, it's because it's Psalms, right? And Psalms deals with the ups and downs and the disappointments of a people. We move to that middle verse in page 4 from Isaiah. We are also seen as a people by our prophets, particularly prophet Yeshayahu, Isaiah, as a bride. The people of Israel are referred to as a bride. And that bride eventually, as that bride ages, that bride will become a widow. And our prophets, and particularly Rashi, not really from the age of prophecy, but from the Middle Ages, commentator from northern France, will drash and finesse this idea of the people being a widow. They say the people of Israel become widowed when the divine presence exits, because we have gone so far away from the path. Okay, bride, we can say allegory. Then we come to the book of Numbers. And here, in this situation, we have a situation that is in Parashat Balak, that is almost a replica of what has happened to our United States of America in the south where you can see when you get to the south, to the borders, you can see from the other side, there would be a bridge and you would have the Rio Grande, the river called the Rio Grande, and you would see the immigrants trying to come in, right? People coming in, sometimes walking on, on the Rio Grande River when it's pretty dry. And sometimes when the water is high, you would see, and this has been, documented, parents throwing their children into the water so that somehow, maybe somehow on the other side, somebody would save their children and bring them to asylum in the United States of America. Let's look at it as how this is interpreted in the book of Numbers, okay? So I'm going to ask somebody to read this one. So this is from Parashat Balak. Let's see. And the situation is we have the prophet Bilam being entrusted by the king of Moab. Look, I want you to do the dirty work for me. Go to the border, right? Go to that far away from the center of the kingdom and look at these peoples who are encamped out there. Curse them out so that they will move away from our land. Okay, so bottom of page 4, it says Numbers 23, verses 7 and 9. Who would like to read? Yes, thank you.
He took up his theme and said, "From Aram has Balak brought me, Moab's king from the hills of the east? Come, curse me, Yaakov. Come tell Israel's doom. How can I damn whom God has not damned? How doom when has not doomed? As I see them from the mountaintops, gaze on them from the heights. There is a people that dwells apart." Thank you. Not reckoned among the nations.
Tell me your name. Judy. Thank you, Judy. Right, so this is another name that's been given to our people, that we are a people that dwells apart. Literally, so in Hebrew we say am, people now, right? Not just one person. We are now not just one person, not just Yaakov, not just Yisrael, but now not just a holy nation, but the people on the other side. Am levadad yishkon, a people that dwells apart. So we know in many ways that the way Jews live, the way we observe our Halacha, or the affinity groups that we prefer and want to find community in, sets us apart. Practices set us apart. Customs set us apart. But here, it is literally the people are on the borders, on the other side of the Rio Grande, trying to get in, trying to find some succor, some respite from this endless journey through the wilderness. And the king of Moab says, deputizes his prophet, Bilam, you go out there, confront these people, and tell them to actually curse them. Not only curse them out, but give them the power of your mind stuff and your magic, so that these people will leave and continue to be separate. That's a little bit different from a holy nation, very different from a chosen people, very different from a treasured, beloved people. And this idea of us now as being levad, as being alone, was lamented by one of my teachers, a Tal Becker, who had been in the Israeli government and who had been in the rooms where they crafted the Abrahamic Accords and in rooms where they crafted many agreements. And he was also one of the lawyers that represented the, the state of Israel in front of the International Court of Justice. And his lament to us was that the people, the Jewish people, the Jews, who originally crafted the genocide, the conventions against genocide to prevent further genocides after World War II, are now being called the perpetrators of genocide. And he, as a representative of Israel and as a person who has to keep his sechel, his intelligence in check and his emotions in check in front of the court of the International Court, he said never in his life had he expected that he would feel so alone as part of a people that dwells apart. Lebanon, Yishkon. But that's one, right? But there are all these other ways that we can be a people. But that was just one. In the next box, we see that we are also a people that are part of, and this now comes into our Passover, our Passover narrative, that we were a people whose father, my father was a fugitive Aramean. He went down to Egypt, meager in numbers, and there he became a great and very populous nation. Right? So we are also of that people. Then we keep going. We are also a people all the way at the bottom of 5. In the days to come, we are a people that is of the mountain of God's house that stands firm above the mountains. So where we would be, we would think of ourselves as Yaakov, the heel. We are also lofty, and we can build a house of God, a house that aspires for much. And the last one with Isaiah, we are also a people who, when we are wounded, we are a people whose wounds are bound and healed by God. We can say this is our aspiration. And then there is where we live. After October 7th, we became all of these. We became, in some circles, oh, but we are the chosen people. In some circles, we are a stiff-necked people. In some circles, we are definitely a lonely people. In some circles, we are going to keep forging. We are the recipients of a destiny of a holy nation. So in all of these ways that we can be a nation, as a frequent visitor to Israel and a student, where I've gone to Israel so many times in different iterations of conflict, I started to look at not only Yisrael, but all the people that come into Yisrael to work. So I want to bring you to a really a not seen population that is in Israel, and those are the guest workers, right? Okay, so we are all of these things. We are a nation apart. We are a holy nation. We are the people of Yaakov. We are treasured peoples and all this. And now, but we have guest workers. In the same way as this United States of America has guest workers, Israel also has guest workers. And so permit me to take us from the biblical verses and from our prophets into today. Even as the war rages, and as the wars and ceasefires are fragile but they're in place, and as communities split, families don't talk to each other. In Israel, there's one reality, and that reality is our elders. Our elders are the same as our elders here, and they need caregiving. So in the Halacha of caregiving, as imagined by our rabbis, here's one that I'd like to read to you. In the Mishnah Torah, so this is now a document from the Middle Ages, right? So even in the Middle Ages, this was a concern, right? So crafted by Maimonides in the Mishnah Torah, it says, so mi shenitrefas, one who has become, if one's mother or father, parent has become mentally incapacitated, he should make an effort to behave toward them. One, right, the child should make the effort to behave toward them according to their state of mind with mercy. With mercy. But if that person cannot endure the strain any longer because they have become like consumed by the difficulty, then that person may find proper care for them. From the Middle Ages, it was taught that if one was a child and one's parent becomes incapacitated, it is perfectly fine. It is actually a teaching that you must find help and care for them. All right, so the fact that in Israel, that our caregivers come from other places and don't necessarily come from the families, right? So that guilt of oh, I couldn't care for my elders is removed because this is just life, right? Life means that life should continue and we should take all the help that we can take. But there are certain ways, certain premises, for example, where the question of who cares for your elder should come from. Okay. Okay. So one is in the matter of putting on tefillin, right? So tefillin are what we call phylacteries, right? If an elder has had a practice of putting on tefillin when they're older, can a person who is not of your family, and specifically the question is, can a non-Jew, a non-Jewish person whose purpose is to help your family, can they put tefillin on your elder? They don't miss a beat, okay? I experienced putting on tefillin on another person for the first time this past Wednesday. And I never had to, right? I always thought, oh, I'll do my, I kind of wrapped tefillin in Spanish Portuguese way because from my mom's side, it was, they were from Spain way back then. To put tefillin on another person is so difficult. So the situation was, I was at Rikers, and just like Rabbi Hilly here goes to Rikers, so JCC Harlem is one of those partner groups, anchor groups for that volunteer. And so we got there. So Rabbi Mia Simbring, my former classmate, so we're now colleagues, she works at Rikers as a DOC officer and chaplain. We got there, and there were many trucks. There were many cops, more cops than usual. But not only cops, I wouldn't even call them, they look like soldiers. And lo and behold, there's a new rule now that the federal government has, is now in charge of Rikers, right? The prison, right? Because we have been shown that this city of New York has been unable to run the Rikers. So on the outside, trucks everywhere. So our plan to actually do a service, a prayer service, I brought my guitar. I got clearance for my guitar. That all went out the window. So what Rabbi Mia Simmering and I had to do was like find a way to visit. So between the regular officers and these, these men in boots with tactical gear doing their tactical strategic operation, we had to go this way and around them. And thank goodness we're both 5'3" and below. We were able to do this with a blessing for the officers that we encountered, and we put tefillin on another person, on a gentleman in a hallway. And then we found another person who wanted to do this, who was open to putting on tefillin. So just the blessing of that. And we were women. Do women put on men? Never. But do you also help somebody who wants to put it by themselves? Yes. And one anecdote I need to share with you is one other gentleman. So imagine just this room here behind double bars and inmates and shouting and screaming on the other side. And an officer says, any Jews there? The chaplains are here, the rabbis are here. And 4 came out. And one gentleman said, yes, I want to put on tefillin. And he said, can I have a chair? We were in a hallway, like so narrow, right? Narrower than this door, right? And shouting everywhere. And we brought a chair, and then my heart just dropped, because as he would in shul, in synagogue, he put on his bag on the chair, took out one piece, the one for the hand, and made sure that the edges didn't touch the ground, and wound it around his arm. And then the other he put on his head and made the blessing and did his Shema, and then neatly tied everything and put it back. So neat, because then you know that this gentleman, even though he's in Rikers, this Jew had been a devout Jew and is still a devout Jew. So I'm a woman. I put on tefillin on one person in the hallway, and this one, we facilitated this. So all the more so, a caregiver who's not a Jew can put on tefillin on a Jew. All right, next one. Another question is it possible that a caregiver should, cook? A person who's not Jewish cook for a non-Jew, for a Jewish elder. And it says, yes, that is permitted. And entering a synagogue. May a non-Jew enter a synagogue for this reason, to accompany another Jew, a Jew? Yes, all yes. So what I'm trying to show here is that by bringing on this halacha, is that even our sisters and brothers of families who are suffering in Israel continue to do the caregiving of their elders and continue to employ non-Jewish caregivers who come from all over the world. And a caregiver normally is called a Filipinite, from the word, we say Germanite is from Germany, right? A person who's Germanite is from Germany. A person who is Filipinite is from the Philippines. Precisely because in the early 90s, when the first Intifada occurred, they no longer could bring Arabs to work in Israel. So they invited Filipino men and women to do the caregiving work, and also Thai people, Thai men, mostly men, to work in the fields and the farms. So all of these people are still in Israel. Many have left after October 7, but our people are making do because of necessity, because we need help. And as difficult and as unfair as some of the rules of fairness and work and equity, each one needs the other. So we are a people that also needs help. And we are a people that is making do accepting and understanding that we need help on all sides, not only the war, but also the care of our own families. So I took you on this journey, right? I took you on this journey, like who we are. We are the people that that rallies are focusing on. We are also the people who are devout, who are devoted to text, who are devoted to our patriarchs, who are devoted to a biblical and rabbinical imagination of looking at ourselves in all these different ways. So my question to you that I'm going to pass on to you is, just as modern day New Yorkers, these images and the ways that we are called in our Torah, how does that interface with the way that you look at the world and the way that you look at your families, at your communities, and at your affinity, in your affinity circles? So I turn this now to you. What would you call yourselves? What would we call ourselves? Yisrael, a Jewish people? Am I just going to say that we are a stiff-necked people? Are we going to say that we are a goy kadosh? We are a holy nation. Mamlechet Kohanim, look to your right, to your left. They say on Shabbos, you look at, you imagine that you are surrounded by the angels, and in front of you is just eternal light. Who are you, and how do you see yourselves as our people? I will pass on the microphone. You don't have to have like a definite answer, but what would you like to identify as? Yes. Wait, hold on. Tell us your name, and then, yeah.
Betty, and for the last 15 years, and I can pinpoint it. Yes?
There we go.
Okay. I'm Betty. For the last 15 years, which I can pinpoint because it was in preparation for my group B'nai Mitzvah, I heard first the word Am Kashe Orif, which was used for me as stubborn. And I've come to find that very applicable and, quite frankly, a compliment because it means you are people who persevere. You keep with it. And so going back when I paid attention to where it appears, one use for the word is the idea that these are stubborn people and they keep moving along. And I've embraced that. I like that. Yes.
So great too. Thank you, Betty. And another variation on that there are people that keep going is that we are also called Am HaNetzach, the eternal people, right? The eternal people that will keep on going. And Rav Kook says, let me just see here, in Sefer Orot, he says, they are an eternal people who are not afraid of a long, arduous journey. There it is, right? So Am HaNetzach, that's exactly that. That's the phrase. And Am HaNetzach, when we say Lenetzach Netzachim, right? We say at the end, towards the end of the Amidah, like from eternity to eternity, we will keep on going in this journey. Point of pride, right, Betty?
I'm Freddie. Personally, I see myself as a caregiver, and I see the Jewish community now in the compassion shown for the hostage families, the hostages, the soldiers, the civilians, that sort of translates into people who are all caregivers.
The word that keeps coming up in Torah study is remnant. That we are there's a remnant of Jews. And I think that's really true. Even in Israel, there are so many people who call themselves secular. But times change. Remnants grow, remnants. There's more people, there's left. I look at us all here. We are not a remnant. We see each other all the time. We study. We are very comfortable with Jews. I think times change. And there are people who feel like many of us do, and there are people who don't know who they are. But we keep struggling and hope to pass it on, as it says, teach the next generation.
Sorry, yeah. So this table, right? And then Barbara and then Susan.
I'm Barbara, and when I formally acknowledged my Jewish soul, I chose for myself the name Yaakova. And I did that because I really identified with the struggle of the night, the wrestling. I feel like my whole life I had been a wrestler with God. And at some point someone said, well, why didn't you name yourself Yisrael? And I think for me it was because I really felt at that point I was about to really begin the really serious wrestling, and it would be a little presumptuous to say that I had gotten there. And so I really feel, and throughout all these years now, I still keep coming back to that wrestling. There's just always that wrestling with God is just, I mean, especially in these times, it's really easy to really get into a tussle. So yeah, wrestling.
I'm Susan, and I like what was said about being eternal people. I think because of the wrestling, we will always be here. There are religions and there are peoples that we never think about anymore. We don't hear about Phoenicians. We don't hear about so many other people who were the champions and were in charge of the whole world that they were in, but we're still here. And I think we always will be.
Yeah, we'll give it. My name is Ron, and I learn about Tikkun Olam to help make the world a better place. So what has been said can echo that, from stubbornness to wrestling to persistence to survival. If we each in our own way can just do a little bit to help make things better, then all the things that people have talked about can keep not only the Jewish people, Am Yisrael, but maybe even beyond.
A little itch one. Some of you might be familiar with Ruth Messenger. Yes? Okay, so last Wednesday, this is what she said. What are we going to do? She said, number one, do not create another nonprofit organization. Okay? And she said, find one thing that you're going to put your mind to and do that. And the third, she said, was the next elections are in 2 years. Prepare for that. And the other one is like, don't ever give up. Yes, tell me your name.
My name is Iris. People many times say, are you a American Jew or a Jewish American? I was born in Israel, so I say I'm an Israeli Jewish American. And I always think that we need to identify with Judaism first, American, absolutely. But I think the problem is that if you ask the average Jewish American, they will say I'm an American Jew. And I think we have to remember that we are Jews first, no matter where we live. And then the nationality comes in. And that's really a form of survival.
I mean, Ben, we used to call ourselves in our household that we were Julo-Pinocans. So we did right. We were Jewish or Filipino or American. Yes, please.
One line in the Bible that I tend to cling on to is from, I think it's in Exodus, that the whole multitude followed in Exodus. Like it's the whole multitude. It just that encapsulates the diversity of Jewish people. It's not just ethnicity. It's not just a nation. It's not just Israel. It's people, and that makes it harder to identify what Israel is.
A whole multitude. So, and another one, like a poet said that another verse that came up in this, particularly during this time after October 7. There's a lot of poetry, a lot of literature, a lot of visual art, a lot of theater that is just coming out of Israel, out of the abyss, right? Out of like the lowest point, Shir HaMa'alot. The song is rising. And let me see, Amir Gilboa said that we are a people a nation that's just, who woke up suddenly in the morning, right? The morning of October 7th. This is a nation that's always been there, but then it woke up that morning and pitom kam adam baboker. That morning we all woke up again, and all of this resolve that you are carrying and that you are holding, I think, do not start another nonprofit organization, but put your mind, and we will follow the clarion call of Ruth Messenger. Then let us put our minds and keep community, hold on to each other. And if our children and our grandchildren have gone other ways, don't close the door. The door will still always be open. But, sometimes people go this way and they will come back to the path. So thank you so much for coming. I'm Yisrael Chai. Thank you very much. Keep persisting and know each other's names. Thank you, Rabbi Berman.
Thank you for coming, everybody. We'd love to see you again very soon. Tonight we have the Media and the American Election program at 7 p.m. in the pavilion. It's not too late to register. Marina would be happy to sign you up. This was, as I said, our very first Lunch and Learn of the year. We have 3 more great programs coming up. On February 10th, Unity in the Community with the Afro-Semitic Experience, a live musical performance and talkback. It's going to be incredible. April 7th, Ragtime, a theater history of diversity. Our speaker is Jarrett Winters Morley, and it's sponsored by our own member, Lynn Silverman. And then on June 9th, Through Her Own Eyes, a look at sacred Jewish texts, biblical texts, through the eyes of female characters by Rabbi Ariel Stein. We'd love to see you at any and all of these programs. Please keep coming. Have a great day, everybody.